Back to the Valiant Few podcast. I am one of your hosts, Crossfire.
And Raptor is here.
Today we are kind of on a pseudo-skeleton crew to begin with. The others may be joining us here in a little bit.
Yes.
We'll see how that goes, so you might hear some background noise throughout the show. Today we are going to be talking about balance and detachment.
Yes. Detachment is a very interesting topic because it might kind of sound a little weird in the context, or without any context, I would say.
Yeah, without context, it just seems like a kind of a random word we threw in, but detachment, we mean, is in the sense of how you can mitigate stress levels, how you can detach one stressful thing in a situation from another and use that to improve your decision making so that you can use rational decisions, or you can make rational decisions when you're in the middle of, say, a stressful situation or something like that. You can detach that element that's causing you stress and then, use that to make your rational decision.
Yes.
Pretty good life skill.
But before we get into that,
our usual plugs.
Yes.
So if you're listening to us now on YouTube, you know where to find us. If not, youtube.wevaliantfew.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at wevaliantfew. We have a Facebook now.
Yes, we do.
Facebook.com/wevaliantfew. Or I think you can you search ats on Facebook? I think so. Wevaliantfew on Facebook. I mean, will be the only thing that comes up. We have made the executive decision to switch back to Discord. Since they have
hot potato with
with
community platforms.
So the merger didn't go through with Microsoft, so we came back to actually using Discord.
It's better for community building, I think, at least at the current moment.
It's more widely accepted than Guilded at this point. Plus, I would say Guilded is very beta.
Yeah, it's very beta. Not complete beta, not like.
Yeah, beta. Like beta. All of these links you can find and more on our website, wevaliantfew.com, or just search WeValiantFew in Google, and there you go. So, with that, we would like everybody to, again, like, share, subscribe to this, especially if you're on YouTube. We got to try to beat the YouTube algorithm. I know this is going to sound like a copy and paste from a lot of people.
But it's true.
YouTube statistically pushes content like ours away, so we have to kind of battle that. A small aside from that, I had a private listed video that was back from the days of YouTube poops that I made like years ago. Again, that was a private video that I put on there to share because it was before you could easily share videos like across Discord or whatever, right? I just got a notice the other day that it was taken down for inciting violence.
Interesting.
There was nothing violent at all at that, and I asked the guy who the video was a video of, that I was specifically making fun of him because I sent him a video of me and he sent me a video of him, and we made it's like a roast fest effectively, and yeah, I was inciting violence. He's like, there was nothing violent about that at all. So, just to show you that a private unlisted video that you could not find,
nobody can search.
You literally can't find it unless I send you the link. Like that level was taken down for inciting violence or something. I forget exactly what it said, but inciting violence when there was no violence. So, TLDR, we're up against that. Yeah, that just a sigh is the most effective response to that.
My life is just one big sigh anymore.
It really is. So, moving on from that, that's one other thing. We changed our camera angle.
Yes.
So now instead
I feel like this is a bit more personal. Like you're kind of at the end of the table, and you're like having this discussion with us.
You're part of the discussion. You're not just up in the ceiling or like way over there. No, you're here.
Yes. Although we don't really look at you much, but
no, not really.
That's okay.
That's a subject for a future.
Yes, we'll get to that. You get to see our side profiles for now, and then maybe later on, you'll get to see our
stay tuned
toy boy faces.
Yeah, really. But moving into current events, I know that Blackbeard, who may be here in a little bit, wanted to share his current event with us because of the time frame of the show about Bill Cosby getting out of jail.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Me, I mean, if you want to hit personal or current events at the moment, The only few things that I have are, if you looked at the U.S. Army's official Instagram page, there was some serious like craziness. And it wasn't necessarily the post that they made, because they made a post like in support of LGBTQ, and you know what, that's fine. But it was the comments that they were leaving on commentors' posts on the post. And that's a lot of posts in a sentence, but
What, just woke or what?
yeah. Well, so one of the comments were, or basically all the comments were of the gist of the army is weak. This is why Russia and China are laughing at us.
Oh wait, that was from the Army's.
Yeah, the official army Instagram page. Posted.
I did not see this. I know you were saying it, but talking about it.
Which, you know what? That's fine. I don't care. The army has always been. The army isn't just now about inclusion. Whenever you're in the army, everyone is a team. It doesn't matter what color, who you sleep with, does not matter. All of that stuff is wholly irrelevant. And it should be irrelevant, because everyone is a team, everyone is working towards the common mission, and all that. But for whatever reason, and especially on the back leg of some of the stuff that General Milley had said earlier in the week,
that is one of the most disappointing things that's happened this year.
Critical race theory and stuff like that. He essentially on that back foot. So some of the comments that were made were saying like, "Oh, I'm glad I ETS'd," and ETS meaning end of term of service, or for layman's terms, it's whenever they got out of the army. They're happy they got out of the army. Whoever the PAO or the guy that runs the U.S. Army official Facebook or Instagram page was like, "We're happy that you got out too." As well as a bunch of other, like, they since have deleted their comments, but if you want to see some of the comments, you can go to @John Burke. He like was covering this basically as soon as it came up, and he has like the screenshots of these of the comments that this, like, what it seemed like a woke 12-year-old was posting.
Well, just like anything else, where the military in general, not just the army, but like the military in general, is supposed to be this mechanism for protecting us and our assets and our allies. I mean, it is in a broad sense. It does a lot more than that.
You literally just, like, in the military, you don't have time to worry about who is sleeping with, or what killer someone is. It's so irrelevant. It is.
Now, see what I'm getting at is that's what it should be.
Yeah.
But now it's just like anything else is now turning into, well, I wouldn't say now, it has been.
Yeah.
But it's now it's just another propaganda arm of the government. I mean, that's
more size.
I'll go out on the stretch, but I think that's pretty accurate.
I wholly agree.
Like just like I firmly state that the media system it's a propaganda mechanism.
Yeah, the whole thing. And that's why we're doing our podcast, because we're trying to combat that ideology. We don't like this woke, this whole, like, everyone's special, everyone gets a trophy BS.
Go out and earn your worth.
Yeah.
It's not that hard, really.
Just be like, congratulations, you sleep with the same sex of person or someone else or whatever. You sleep with people. Me too. Like,
you ever hear Linus, what he says about here have a gold star? There's a couple other words in there.
it's so irrelevant. Like, if you define to me, and you know what, you can cancel me and whatever you want, but to me, if your whole personality is just simply based on who you sleep with, I think that's really
very shallow.
Very shallow.
Yep. Yeah, and again, not to beat this, 'cause I know our audience agrees with us here. There's a whole lot more to life, and there's a lot more fulfilling things that you can do, that you don't have to just be like turn into a symbol of iconography and just exist as that and nothing else.
Yeah.
That's
like, what else do you do? Because what else do you do besides sleep with people?
How could your life be fulfilling if you acted like that all the time?
I have no idea. It drives me crazy.
It's sad.
It is.
It's really sad, and like that is like what's causing. That's part of the cause of the deterioration of our nation. I mean, among a lot of other things.
Right. And like whenever I was in the Army in 2015, this was after Don't Ask, Don't Tell and all that. So there were openly gay people in the military, and that's fine. A ton of my friends in there were openly gay, and that's fine. They worked just as hard as everyone else, and it didn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It didn't matter
because they probably had a lot more to their character. Like they were actually, they actually had a personality.
Yeah, they
stuff.
had personalities, and they didn't just define themselves based on that. Based on who they slept with.
If you went out and expected everybody to agree with everything you said, there's a word for people like that, communists.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just sigh. More sigh. But I don't know. Reach out to the audience. Let us know what you think about this.
Yeah.
The Millie thing though,
it's
so I saw that and I just sunk in my chest.
Yeah, Millie's down with critical race theory.
I thought so much higher of him.
I didn't. I mean, he was the general whenever I was in the military, and our previous. Because Millie, his counterpart is the 16th Sergeant Major of the Army. We've talked to him about. We've talked about him before. Sergeant Major Grinston, I believe. He's been going on. We've talked about him before. He's been going off about this kind of stuff. The 15th Sergeant Major of the Army, Sergeant Major Daly, he was awesome. There was no wokeness in him whatsoever. It was all about the soldiers and stuff like that. And now we get this, who is constantly just pandering to this woke agenda.
The wokeness is a mental disorder.
It really is.
We have a guest showing up on the show here. Slapshot's here.
As he sits down.
We changed the camera angle, by the way.
Whoa.
Yeah, now they're a part of the discussion.
That's an interesting way to do it.
I think it looks good.
I think it looks better. Not as far away. We can be talking. I
now,
can talk to you. You can talk to me.
It looks good on the screen,
through
but
the chat.
But how it's set up here is kind of a little sketchy. Not too bad.
Yeah,
okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. It'll get better.
It's okay.
We will get there when we get there. We are still learning.
Right. We're just finishing up current events. Do you have anything?
No, you guys can keep going.
Okay. So that we'll get. I don't really have a wake up segue on that because we didn't really have a whole lot of outstanding current events. But just like anything else, you should always wake up.
Yeah. Don't be woke like.
Don't be. Become based.
Become based instead.
I have an idea for a patch. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
Getting into the first talking point today.
The meat and potatoes.
The meat and taters, yeah. Balance. So, what do we mean by balance? It's a good way to start because that's it's ambiguous.
Well, it is ambiguous. Okay, so when we're talking about balance and how to and what we mean by that and how to manage it, I'm kind of talking about everything. I'm talking about work. I'm talking about your free time. I'm talking about your friends. I'm talking about your relationships. I'm talking about all of that stuff. And I kind of see this. It's the way that I would describe it. Just to use one example is helicopter relationships, where we have individuals that get into relationships that are incapable of functioning on their own outside of said relationship. And
so 3/4 of our generation.
Yeah, and it irks me whenever I see it because, again, when we're talking about like individuals and stuff, like if you base yourself on this one thing, on this relationship, like your whole personality is your relationship, then you're really not that interesting.
No, you're not. And a good way to look at this too, and this kind of expands on our point earlier and this point here about pigeonholing yourself into one thing. It's kind of like building a building on a single support beam. What happens when that support beam collapses?
Yeah, and I love that analogy actually, because the way that I see it and the way that I've kind of developed the the way that I manage all of my relationships, whether it be friend relationships, whether it be family relationships, whether it be work relationships, or like a relationship with a significant other, there has to be a balance. I can't rely. At some point, maybe my friends are going to cause problems in my life, and I need someone else. I need something else to fall back on. Well, I have two safety nets. I have my significant other, and I also have my family. Say my family's causing me problems, then I have my significant other and my friends, so on and so forth. Or if two of those are causing you problems, then you still have one left over that is
It's your support system.
Yeah.
You're just exemplifying it.
And a lot of people tend to, like, once they get one of these, I would say more so a, like, significant other relationship, I think people tend to...
They neglect the other two.
They neglect the other two rather heavily, at least in my experience. Does anyone else... Do you want to comment on that, Slapshot? Do you think...
Yeah, I remember you talked to me about this whole love triangle thing before, and how you kind of have to equally balance all three of them, or else your life can kind of like fall out of its like sync.
It doesn't take much thought to think. Just think of an
Well,
example.
you
to
think
see
it's
that.
fine. And whenever you're like blinded, like you got
Tunnel
the
vision.
yeah, you're blinded by one of these three to everything else. You end up damaging the relationships that you're having with the other groups.
You absolutely do. Yeah.
And I don't know. That's just that, I guess, balancing relationships and understanding that. Back to what we said in was it last podcast with, like, whenever you say you're gonna do something, you do it.
Yeah, that's the discipline.
Yeah, discipline and stuff like that. It falls on you to maintain those relationships, and then if you neglect those relationships, you can't be mad that
They fall
those
apart on you.
relationships fall apart. And
I mean, it's not even our generation either. Like, there isn't the divorce rate like 50%.
Our generation's pretty bad.
I know our generation is, but like even the generations older than us too. I mean, if the divorce rate was that high, I mean, when we were younger, it's not just us; it's other people too, older than us.
I think the older generation were kind of like this trailblazing generation, I'll say, in the sense of
Tally ho, lads!
yeah, in the sense of most likely our parents' were very religious, so their divorce rate was probably not that high. But our parents, who would have grown up in like late or probably early 60s to late 70s ish areas,
The culture was a lot different.
The culture
between
was
that.
a lot different.
Especially like that going into like the 70s. It was a lot more kind of like free flowy. People were more experimentative. They would always go out and do things versus like you said, like the more conservative generation.
They would work, and then they would find a girl, and then they would cut off all ties to everyone else and create a family, and that's about it. And I mean,
For the most part,
sometimes, you know what? Like, back, if you want other, I guess the whole balancing only matters if you want other relationships outside of a significant other. Because if you want to have
No friends and
just a
companion, or
yeah.
whatever you're into.
Oh yeah, whatever you're into, just a single life companion, then I guess you don't need balance.
more power to you. You don't need balance at all.
Well, see, this is just one element. So, like, you can take all these relationships and you can group, I mean, like, you know, your friend relationships, your literal relationships, your family relationships, and you can group those into one category that we'll call, again, relationships. That does, I mean, it doesn't matter if that's all three or, I mean, if there's more somehow or if there's less, that's still relationships of some sort. That acts as one of the pillars, I say. Yeah. Now you have all these other elements where you have, you know, your work, your play, your downtime. All of that has to be balanced. Otherwise, I mean, you borderline go insane.
Yeah.
What do you do when you work 100 hours a week? You know?
Yeah. And that's another thing going into work. So a very long time ago, not very long, probably like 5 or 6 years ago, I was spending a lot of time stressing about work in the Army. I was in the Army at the time, and I was basically constantly stressed out. And I see one of our viewers here, Mr. Perez. He was there. But I digress. At the time, I was super stressed. I was stressed all the time. I would go to work stressed. I would leave work stressed. I would be stressed about the day coming up, like stressed about having to wake up for PT and the next day and the next day. Well, after a while, it kind of overwhelmed me.
But it gets overwhelming when especially like, you're looking for that break just to catch up, and you never get it.
Well, it got to the point where I became depressed because of this. And at the time, I had a great NCO, and because he was a great leader and a great person to talk to, yeah, I was running through vapes. But because I had a very good NCO and someone that legitimately cared about me, I brought it up to him, and instead of him yelling at me and saying "suck it up" or whatever, he like listened to what I had to say, and he still pushed me to do stuff, and he even, after we had that conversation, he sent me to a soldier of the quarter board, even though he knew I wasn't up for it. He was still like, "This is gonna be good for you. Like, I understand what you're going through, and we're just gonna suck it up. I'm gonna do it with you, whatever." And from there, basically throughout the entire Army, I was pretty much always stressed to a degree. But after having that experience, I was able to manage it, or begin to start managing a bit better, to where I am now, where if I'm not at work, I don't care about work. The only time I care about work is if I'm at work or somebody calls me and says, "Hey, something's broke, please fix it," and then I'll be like, "Okay, then I'll help you out."
That's pretty much how I am anymore. With me not coming from an Army background, I could just tell you what I went through. Yeah. Now, I was kind of in a different situation where you did all that stuff, and then you kind of became depressed because of it. I was depressed for a multitude of reasons, so my outlet was working, which I know is unhealthy. But by the time I was in my senior year of college, between class, going to college, I ran 2 research labs, and I was a part-time professor. I was there 100 hours a week. It was 6 a.m. to 12 midnight every day, and it gets complicated to make sure you're balanced and everything around, and there's not a lot of balance there.
No, 100 hours a week is.
And that's what it was. Every single day, 6 a.m. to midnight, and except weekends. I took weekends off, so I got a little bit of balance there. But I'll tell you the truth, I never missed a deadline.
I never missed a deadline. I never missed a deadline either. It's just the fact that, like, because first of all, because you care so much about the work that you're producing, on top of, like, you're shoehorning yourself into depression because you care about what you're doing, and you want to make sure that you're doing it well. And then if you're constantly stressing, and now, like, your whole life, the only thing to be, I guess, proud of in life is your work, then you're not going to miss a deadline, but eventually you're going to break.
That's pretty much what happened too. Yeah. It didn't really break. It just, I kind of came down off of it. And then just was like, for a solid month, I was like, But like you said, you get to the point where you pigeonhole yourself into it, and like, it's like, before you know it, it's like, oh man, it's been like 2 weeks since I called anybody in my family. I should probably call somebody.
Yeah.
I
had plenty of times in the Army where I was like, oh, I should probably talk to my parents. I haven't talked to them in like 2 months.
I remember during the entire month of December, or peak season, as we call it in the distribution workforce, I didn't even see you guys for like the entire month. I was just working 12-hour shifts every single day of the month. And I didn't even talk to you guys once.
And I don't think that's healthy for anyone. And that's why I preach, like, get a skill, and, whether that be go to college, or whether that be go to a trade school, whether that be just apprentice under someone else that has a skill. I very much highly recommend you get a useful skill that will put you ahead of people and not make you have to work these incredibly long, stressful hours that are basically killing you physically and mentally.
Yeah, associated with like majority unskilled labor, where you just have to work. You have to work a lot to make up for the cost per time deficit that you don't get with a skilled job.
At some point, those unskilled labor positions are good for, I would say, like, high school people or stuff like that. But eventually, you should, I guess, move yourself tactically into a position where you can best protect your brain and your mental well-being and your relationships.
I like the way you said that, tactically moving. That sounds
Yes.
good. Yeah, but all this, all this boils back to what we're saying. You got to balance it. Think of it as a scale. And I'll be honest, that's kind of
Too
how
much of one thing is always bad.
all it takes is to tip one side to the other. Perfectly
If you
balanced.
eat too many apples, you still die.
What I was getting at is like that's kind of how I do things in my head, for lack of better words. Is I weight the things that I'm doing, and it's like, oh well, I got to pay attention. This is so much time to this, so much time to this, da 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 da, and it bounces around, and that's how I managed to get everything done. Because I still get. Like you guys know how crazy busy I am with all kinds of stuff, and I still managed to get everything done. You just weight it, balance it out, send it.
And
It's a skill.
yeah,
It takes a while to get it right.
It's literally time management. And time management was beat into my brain in basic training, and not that I was bad at it before, but basically I had everything that I did down to seconds.
Well, I think that's part of the big thing that they try to instill.
Yeah,
is
but like most people didn't do it.
That's a bit.
Like
Seconds is a bit.
I was connected to my watch, and it wasn't necessarily like seconds in the sense of like, oh, like everything needs to take less than 30 seconds. I'm just saying, like, I'm counting down, like, oh, okay, I know formation starts in, let's say, 7 minutes. It takes 3 minutes for me to run up the stairs. It'll take me 3 minutes to go to the bathroom. It'll take me 3 more minutes to run down the stairs. So am I going to wait to go to the bathroom before formation, or am I going to suffer until formation's over, which takes like 15 minutes, and be late for formation, which would be very bad. So
Start carving your gravestone now. Yeah.
that's at like a super small scale level, but you can scale that out all the way to your weekly time allotments to the stuff that you do.
That's literally how I think before I drive somewhere to make sure I'm there on time.
Oh,
I do exactly that, except it's like, well, that's like 15 miles. It's going to take me, 20 minutes to get there. There's some traffic lights in the middle. Let's add like 3 or 4 minutes there. Da 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 da. There's might be some slow people. Da da da. Boom, you're there, on time. So.
And I do the same thing with calories too. Like I'm to the point where like I'll look at something and I'll be like, oh, that's a Pop-Tart. And we've talked about it before. Pop-Tarts, 2 Pop-Tarts or a bag of Pop-Tarts is 400 calories. It's a lot of calories, at least for me, where I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, I'm balancing this. And like, is it worth it for me to eat this Pop-Tart? Is the Pop-Tart good enough for the calories that it produces?
And the answer is always no, because it's just sugar.
Yes, because it's just sugar. And Pop-Tarts are good, don't get me wrong. But they're not that good.
There's a difference between good and good for you.
Well, not even good for you. I like Pop-Tarts. I'll eat a Pop-Tart, and I don't even care that it's bad for me. I'm just saying that it doesn't taste good enough for me to want to spend 400 calories on it.
See,
It depends what kind of Pop-Tart it is, though.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, the brown sugar cinnamon is the best Pop-Tart if we're being legit.
I don't know, the OG strawberry is pretty good.
No.
See, when you have things like this where you can put this stuff, especially calories, time, that nature stuff, when you can put that into
Like measurable,
quantifiable
quantities,
numbers, especially, it makes it so much easier to deal with that.
Numbers, Mason.
And you
what
can-
do they mean?
And you can basically take whatever you're trying to balance out and break it into some form of pseudo numbers or something to make it easier for yourself. I mean, that's not me saying as a point. That's just like kind of an advice piece if you need to figure out a way to approach it.
Right.
Try
And
to
I mean,
quantify it.
We have to manage time for this. We do this every week, and I mean, it's
There's a lot that goes into the show other than just us sitting here and just randomly rabbling. I mean, there's prep work, there's coordination, there's us sitting down and trying to plan what the episodes are going to be. That's just us, doing a write up. Even though the screen has it all blurred, there's information on the screen here that is relaying, what we've talked about, any of our cliff notes, call them beforehand. There's a lot that goes into it, and all that falls back into time management. To keep the show going.
right. And I know sometimes I'm sure for some of us it's just like, oh, I don't really want to do this today, whatever. I'll say I've never been like, oh, I don't want to do the podcast today, but there's times where I felt like some of the stuff that we were talking about and producing wasn't really what I was like super happy with. So I guess I wasn't as like excited to go to the podcast as I would be normally.
Well, see, that's part of the developmental process.
Right.
We expected that. It's just a matter of you're still like, even though you put it out there, and it's like, and I mean, the audience probably doesn't know it, but there's entire episodes that are just that have been scrapped because we sit there and we're like, well, we don't like it, so we just scrap it. I mean, we'd rather not have it than have something that's crap.
Right.
And again, it's all part of it. But I think we talked about balance a good bit. I mean, we talked about it for a good, I don't know, 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, I think the whole healthy eating is a good transition into, if you want to talk about like workout routines briefly.
I mean, if you want to balance a workout routine, you can't just look like Popeyes and walk around with just massive arms or massive
Yoked
shoulders
all the time.
like massive hammies.
If you go to any public gym, you know that guy that doesn't do leg day.
Luckily at my gym, it looks like most people are pretty balanced throughout their workouts. They all are, not Planet Fitness people, basically.
But here's a good way to segue. You know what's a really good way to balance your life out? To
Oh,
detach yourself from the problem.
Yes. How to stay away from stress and how to be better at, I guess, managing your time, managing situations, and managing stress. And
You know what you do? You join our Discord.
you can do that.
Yeah, since we're back to Discord, discord.wevaliantpew.com.
And you can talk to us about it if you need help. We're here for you. We got you.
I'm terrible.
I wonder if we should add a meme section so that way it's a bit calming.
Yes, we should throw memes in there because we
If you
do
need to-
like memes. We post memes.
If you're
pretty
having a
regularly.
stressful day at work and need to detach a little bit, check
Yeah.
out our meme page.
If you don't like memes, you can check us out on Instagram at WeValiantPew.
Yes, we got
Oh
some
my
cool
God.
content over there.
That's some cool content,
Oh
yeah.
my god. All right.
All
Full circle
right.
on the plugins. All right, we're done with that. Keep going.
Okay, so detaching. What is detaching? Detaching is so in a description of what detaching is if you're in a problem or in a meeting and you have been working on this project for, let's say, 2-3 months, and maybe the project's falling through, or maybe there's a problem that you're sitting there and you just can't figure out. You don't understand why you can't figure it out. You're so deep into it that like all you're seeing is this problem. And
There's an axiom that is that, by the way.
yeah, and you bring it up to, like, after so long of you just beating your head off the wall trying to figure this out, you bring it up to Joe, who's in the table next to you or whatever, and he's like, oh, well, you just do this and this, or try doing this, and this is something that you've never even thought of. And the reason that works, or why people are always like, oh, just get some fresh eyes on it or something like that, is because these external people that you're bringing into it are detached from your hyper-focused problem. You're looking at you're focusing on like a quarter size of a painting.
The 1-inch view versus the 30,000
Yeah.
foot view is how we say it.
Yeah.
You know what else they have?
What is that?
A different perspective. Check out our previous episode.
Yeah, it is a different perspective. And
Perspective is really important, and it's very easy to tunnel vision yourself on a problem. So it's really important to, when we say detach, we mean like take a step away from it and take a break, think about something else, and then come back to it.
yeah,
And also,
you can
of course, look at other perspectives as well by asking coworkers or friends.
definitely. You can, and it's actually really hard, or at least whenever you're first starting out of like implementing detachment into your life, it's hard to catch yourself in it, and a lot of the times I catch myself post me doing the thing. So I'll look at it a way that I handle a situation or something like that, and I'll sit there and reflect and realize like, oh, I should have kind of detached there a bit more, instead of, because I would get emotional about something rather than detaching myself and just looking at it as a problem, rather than getting emotional about it because I care about fixing the problem.
Well, see, you can look at it too. In like, I'm trying to think how I can explain that. Like, it doesn't have to just be completely detaching it from something. It could just be like pushing some little element aside to focus on another
Yeah.
part of it. So you're pseudo detaching yourself from that element to focus on something and chip away at it. So it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a complete, discrete, gone, like huge project, walk out. Like if you're doing part, let's say you're building a bridge and you're having a problem figuring out the cables to go across it, and you have like the design the pillars, walk away from the cables for a second, design something else on it. So you're detaching yourself from that part to circle it back, or if you're in a position where you could hand it off to somebody else to do it, it's like, hey, well, can you look at this? I've looked
And
at this.
that's another thing.
I really like that example because like if you break away from the cables part of it and start working on the pillars, then you start having this great pillar idea, and it's like, oh wait, the cables could maybe go through the pillars like this, and like it can help you tie your ideas together better just from simply looking at a different part of the project.
It puts your head in a different mode.
Right.
And detachment also, I liked how you said, like, have someone else take care of this or something like that. Because if you're in a management position, you're managing that bridge being built, you don't need... Detachment is, like, the antithesis of micromanagement. Where you can literally just say, hey, this needs done. And you over there, Slapshot, you're in charge of getting it done. And you make the plan... And that allows him to have some discipline and take some initiative and create a plan and to like make himself look good.
Proper delegation.
And don't just sit there and be like, oh well, I'm so involved and so attached to this problem that like, no, I don't like your plan. I think your plan's stupid. Here's my plan. You're gonna do my plan because I said so. Instead of that, I'm like, oh, I mean, I might sit there and think like, oh, like. I don't necessarily completely agree with your plan, but I mean, it sounds like 80% good, so you know what, roll with it.
Well, I mean that right there, what you just said is a lot of how our bigger ideas go. If we don't 100% agree with one another, you sit there, you throw out that difference. Maybe it's from a detached idea, and you sit there and you reattach everything. That's like how big teams form ideas.
Everyone splits off and they come together and then they talk about what they came up with.
That's a fun process.
Yeah.
You can get some cool stuff out of that.
Yes.
But
I wish I had the opportunity to work in bigger teams, at least in my job, because I'm not really a part. Sometimes I'm a part of meetings, but it's not super regularly. But whenever I am, I enjoy.
When I used to do the charity work for doing the inventions for people, there was 9 people that I don't want to say work under me because I don't like that term, but I was the manager and there was 9 people that worked with me. And it was always cool because those 9 people were very different. One was an electrical engineer, or a couple were mechanical engineers, one was a plastics guy, one was a couple of them were app developers. And I always did this every once in a while. I was like, here's a problem. How do you want to do it? How do you want to go about solving it? And I give it out to like 4 or 5 of them. I'm like, come back to me with your answers. And they would be so dramatically different. And it's like, oh, well, hey, you nailed this element here. This is great. But the rest of it kind of fell short. But so-and-so over here, he kind of messed up where you excelled. And we can pull that element there and pull this here and this from yours and this from yours and make it together. And now you have a crazy design that's oftentimes it was more robust just by the nature of it. And every part that one person, ironically, pigeonholed himself into designing everything around, usually the part they started at and everything built around it, now makes a stronger product in the end.
And it almost, like, if you want to look at it in just a product sense, it sounds like it expedites like prototyping, like in a way, like
most times it did. It just by the nature, because when you'd have again, if we're going with that example where you have like 4 people that design 4 different things, and you pull an element from each of those elements doesn't need to be more specifically designed because they already were really specifically designed. Of course, you have the tuning and stuff, but like you said, now you don't have to sit there and go through. Usually speaking, iterate over and over again. So more often than not, it would expedite it. Like there were even some times where we actually had entire product development, like from nothing to functional prototype, 24 hours. That's unbelievable.
That doesn't surprise me.
That's surprised. That surprised me, and I was the one who helped pull it off. Like that's pretty crazy. And then other things is like 2 years and there's still nothing. It all depends on what it was.
Right.
I mean, that was a really specific example, but you know.
Yeah. So another way, or in terms of detachment, a lot of people look at stoicism, which is kind of the act of detaching yourself from things that you cannot control. Do not let outside things that are outside of your control stress you or change, just, I guess, affect you in a way that is negative. If there's, you know what? I can't control if Slatshot doesn't show up on time. I can't. I've tried to help him, and, I do my best, but I can't control it. So I'm not stressed about it. I punch my mic. But I would like Slapshot to show on time.
See, stoicism is a very powerful tool
It is
because it's not just a tool, it's a mindset.
Yes.
Like you said, it's if X thing happens, if I sit there and X thing is totally out of my control. If I sit there and I worry to the point where I'm physically ill about that versus if I just don't care about it at all and the outcome is exactly the same, that's stoicism right there. Why would you sit there and worry about it when it doesn't affect you? I mean, that's not saying don't be cognizant of what's going on. If there's something that may not be affecting you right now, but, is important, then pay attention to it, of course. But say your neighbor's brick wall fell down. Say that's it. They just fell down. Would you? And if you sat there like, oh man, that brick wall fell down. It's been there for 100 years.
It's stopping the water.
Yeah,
my house is gonna flood.
Yeah, is my house gonna fall down now? Versus like, oh well, that sucks. And then you don't forget about it. You just forget about it. Like that right there is the embodiment of stoicism, and it's detaching yourself from that item. Say it's the wall example. We're following that through. It's like detach yourself from it. It's like, okay, if it happened, all right.
Yeah. The weather. I can't control the weather, so I guess I'll just fix the wall.
Yeah.
That's something I can control, and that's something I can focus time on.
Yeah. Like again, like say it is the weather, and you can control whether you dig a ditch to pull water away from your house or you don't. That's not stoicism. Sitting there and just ignoring it because it's not going to matter either way. Yeah, that matters what you do. So go and do it. There's kind of a fine line.
Yeah, it's not, stoicism is not doing anything in all things, but it's seeing, or I guess paying more attention to the stuff that you yourself have some tangible sense of control over,
or have some tangible sense of being involved in.
Yes.
We'll say it that way, because like there's things that could be totally out of your control that directly affect you that you have to pay attention to.
Right.
Like say you're sitting there at a red light ready to go, and somebody hits into you. You have no control over that, but you have to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
So again,
it's
tricky. It's tricky. It's a mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Check out our previous episode.
You can, and I like that some of this stuff is really coming together, because we talked about, what did we talk about? I just had it on the tip of my head. So I guess detaching and going into like stoicism and not letting things affect you.
I'd say stoicism is the embodiment of detachment in a practical sense. That normal people are going to run into. It's the easy way to think about it.
Yeah.
Among our other examples of actually like compartmentalizing information that or events that are happening to you.
Right.
As far as where you were going with that, I'm not.
I was trying to pick it. I was trying to go through my whole thought process there to like pick back up on it. I think I had something to do with leadership and I guess delegating your stuff and not letting your people's failures, or like say like one of your teammates in your team is slacking off. Like you might not, I found it, that you might not be able to control how they're feeling, but you as a leader are able to influence them to feel, to I guess help them do the thing better.
Well, see, that's one of the better things about leadership, is the empowerment.
Right. So you can, I guess if you're thinking, if you think about stoicism too heavily in the sense of like, oh, well, I can't control how you're feeling, then I just am not going to worry about it.
Why bother?
I don't care. But you as a leader, you are able to apply influence to other people in order to help to get them out of the hole that they're in, or to maybe help them detach from a problem and see it more from a 10,000-foot view or something like that.
Yeah, that's actually getting into the management side of things,
right?
Versus the micromanagement side of
things.
Macromanagement. I don't know. Is that a word?
I don't know.
If it should be. Yeah.
How would you define macromanagement?
Looking into things from the high level rather than a small level.
The strategic view.
Strategic, yeah.
Yes. Instead of tactical. Tactical is down here, but the strategic, the view of this squad entering this building is tactical. This is a tactical movement. But the general, who's in charge of clearing this whole building, or this whole, whatever you want to call it, that's a strategic view.
JDAM.
Yes.
That's always the answer. Yeah, but I mean, you could just, we're just going off on examples at this point, and you can draw parallels from what these are to X event.
You can apply this, like we've said before in a lot of this season of what we're talking about, is you can take basically any situation that you deal with in your life and apply some of these mindset, this balance, applying detachment, and maybe look at some of your interactions and take a second look at yourself before, after, during, or just whenever it pops up, and think about how you could have handled a situation better, or how next time if you are met with the same situation, how you might react to it in a different way.
Yeah, do the performance review.
Yeah,
self-performance, yeah.
After action review.
Yeah, there you go.
Whatever you want to call it.
So there's your look into detachment and balance.
Got anything, Slapshot?
No, you guys put it pretty well. I'm just kind of in here like soaking it in, like listening to what you guys have to say.
That was a good episode.
I think so too.
Yeah, I actually feel really good about that one. I think it was good.
Yeah.
Wrap up, as always. Like, share, and subscribe. Normal jargon.
Subscribe, JDamn that like button. Whatever you want to do. Share. If you liked what we talked about, please share this to other people. We very much appreciate it. We're, again, still trying to grow this community. We're trying to get people to, I guess, have a different perspective or accept a different perspective. So,
or to know that there's people out there that have their perspective.
Yeah. Yes, that too. That's also very important.
And what you were saying, two different points, both are valid. But especially if you know somebody that's having a problem with this type of stuff, share the video. Just send them, hey, these guys kind of have this thing going. See, maybe it'll give you a little bit of a different, like you said, different perspective.
Yep.
And maybe if we could say something that helps people, I don't want anything more. That is the goal.
Yes.
So, if you could do that, we'd really appreciate it. We'll go back, do another plug of our links across there. YouTube, if you're listening
to us now.
Yeah, if you're listening to us now, you know where we're at. If not, it's youtube.wevaliantfew.com. You can see all of our shows live. Right now, we're doing them Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. If not, you can catch us on all major podcast platforms Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. If you want to check out our Instagram, at WeValiantFew, or our Facebook, facebook.com/WeValiantFew. They're pretty much the same thing. It just gets cross-posted. But either way, if you see us on Facebook, share some stuff.
Yeah, share it on Facebook.
Share it. Back to Discord again. Discord.wevaliantfew.com. You can engage in that. We'll be revamping that because we kind of pruned it and archived it, so it has to grow a bit.
We'll be in there. Most of us use Discord regularly to play games and stuff like that. So we hop in there, see what's going on, see if there's any questions, if they maybe want to run something past us, whatever it is, we're there.
Mobile support for Discord is way better anyway.
Yeah.
And then all that's on our website, WeValiantFew.com.
Which
Google
is also
WeValiantFew.
going to get some sauce in it too.
It's going to get
saying that it's going to get some sauce for a while now, but it's actually going to get some sauce.
It's just a matter of making the right sauce.
Yes.
We'll say that.
Making good sauce. We could make a ton of sauce, but it could be crap sauce. So we want to make the good sauce.
We make the Gordon Ramsay level.
We need some with the spice.
Some spice.
Some Emerald Lagasse, bam.
Bam.
Some salt guy, whatever you want to call it.
Salt Bay. Oh,
But
no.
with that, I think we'll leave you there. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.
Yeet.